False balance is known colloquially as both sidesism. It's a fallacy of thinking in which one purports to give an objective and comprehensive or fulsome treatment of a topic by presenting both sides or all sides to a conflict, a dispute, a disagreement, etc. But in fact, the sides as presented, they're not equal. And so by presenting them as equal, you end up distorting and misrepresenting the actual issues. So, for example, if you're going to have a science panel on vaccines and you chose to have one doctor, a virologist who works on vaccines, and then you also had an anti-vax YouTuber on the same panel, that would be an example of false balance in which you are misrepresenting the evidence for versus against vaccines by having somebody who's ignorant and uninformed on the panel alongside an expert in vaccines. I want to look here at a 10-second, 15-second clip maybe from Donald Trump from his Oval Office meeting on Friday, February 28th, 2025 with Vladimir Zelensky. And in this case, you're going to see Trump give a horrifying example of false balance as he misrepresents the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
Donald Trump says that he can't do a deal, or he hampered in doing a deal between Zelensky and Putin because Zelensky hates Putin. And says, what do you do with that kind of hate? First of all, it's just an insane, despicable comment. 3 years ago, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Of course, he originally invaded Ukraine in 2014 and he stole Crimea. But then he invaded again 3 years ago, has killed tens of thousands of Ukrainians, has kidnapped 23,000 Ukrainian children and deported them into inner Russia in what is, I think, meets a definition of a cultural genocide, an attempt to destroy the culture of Ukrainian people as such. His armies have committed a long list of war atrocities, war crimes, including targeting of civilians, hospitals, and acts that there's evidence that meet the legal definition of genocide. And after 3 years, Putin is still trying to take over Ukraine. Why would Zelensky think anything but hatred for a moral monster, a dictator, a butcher, a war criminal like Putin? Of course, he hates him. What is wrong with Trump that he doesn't hate Putin? What is wrong with Trump that he continues to defend Putin, that he has the audacity to call Zelensky the dictator rather than Putin? So what he does, what Trump does here in terms of both sidesism, is he completely misrepresents the issues by suggesting we just have two people in a mutual conflict. It's like two people just started arguing in a parking lot, and now the peacemaker needs to come along and have both people admit that they lost their temper and behaved inappropriately. But that's not what we have here at all. What we have is one aggressor nation who has invaded a peaceful nation and over the last 3 years has committed multiple atrocities against that peaceful nation and continues to threaten their existence. There is no equality here of both sides. This is a classic example of false balance or both sidesism. Now, the one question I would have is why is Donald Trump so in love with Vladimir Putin? Because we've always known that Trump loves dictators, whether it was Duterte, Orban, or Kim Jong-un. He's always loved dictators. But for some reason, he is obsessed with Vladimir Putin and Russia. It could be because maybe they do have compromise information that is compromising on Trump. Maybe it's some other reason. Maybe it's just a fulsome love for Putin and Russian culture that Trump so desires. But one thing is clear, there is no parity here. There is no both sides. And so when people like Trump are doing this, they are engaging in classic disinformation, spreading false ideas, lies about the nature of the conflict in order to justify defending and propping up an utterly evil country, Russia, and their actions, the government specifically. Obviously, not all the citizens of Russia, but the government of Russia is corrupt evil and immoral and has been committing multiple atrocities against Ukraine. And people need to continue to speak out and call out the logical fallacies like both sidesism that people use to spread that disinformation.